All right. Hi, folks. I want to do a quick video on um, cryptids or demonic entities. In my opinion, they're the same thing, and why I believe they're mentioned in the Bible. Okay. First thing, my point is, and what I want you all to understand is, I believe in the Bible these beings are mentioned, and then if you go back to the original Hebrew, and I mean we're talking, let's just start with what everybody's familiar with. Most people who studied the Bible understand that the screech owl, which in Hebrew's name is Lilith, is a reference to a demonic entity that's feminine. Okay, that's one. Okay, another easy layup. Seder in the Bible, right? When Seder is mentioned in the Bible, we understand, like it's in Leviticus, God talks about how the Israelites were sacrificing to this thing. We understand that that is linked to Pan, okay? Like the Greek god Pan, which is like a half goat, half man. And it's literally a demonic entity that God tells the Israelites in Leviticus to stop sacrificing to in the fields. I think most Bible scholars will agree, at least on that, that the screech owl, which is the Hebrew word is Lilith, is the feminine demonic entity, that the Hebrews literally call Lilith. And I believe it's linked to the screech owl because of the screeching noises that it makes, is what it seems to be, is why it's called that. And the Seder, once again, is linked to Pan. Now, in case you don't understand this, folks, the word Pan, like as in panic or pandemic, that word is basically literally, and I mean literally, defined the standard definition, and where that word comes from, like the etymology of that word. That's what I'm trying to say. The etymology of that word goes back to the terror and panic that people would feel when they would have a Seder sighting, folks. Go back and look at the etymology of the word. That's where it comes from. It is literally rooted, pandemic and panic are literally rooted, the meaning is literally rooted in the terror that people feel when they had sightings of this being, this goat man thing, right? Now, folks, we've got sightings of goat men today. There's like a bridge in Massachusetts where people had repeated sightings of this goat man thing, right? And that, in my opinion, links to Bigfoot, because now how many people have we had that had a sighting of Bigfoot, folks? And literally they talk about the terror that shot through them. And they also, another thing I'm going to get into, are the howling noises that these Sasquatch entities make, and how when they scream, it's not normal. It's like that it vibrates their body on a spiritual level, and they can feel the vibration in their chest. They can feel like the electrostatic in the air, the electrolyzed static in the air, folks. And that is similar to, like, the screech owl is linked to a feminine entity, like for one instance, and like Irish and Scottish folklore, folks, they call it a banshee. And it would come to the myth around it is that this banshee feminine entity would come to you and screech at you or yell at you, and it would be similar. People would report similar things. They could feel the vibration through their body, and most of the time this was at night in like a sleep state, right? And they say that the banshee would come, and when it screeched like that, that was a warning that someone in your family was going to die. Okay. Now, I don't believe in any of that, right? Okay? But I do believe these entities did visit people and screeched at them, and I believe that's a spiritual attack. Now, were these things involved in the death of a family member? Probably, folks. I mean, if you're not a Christian, following Jesus Christ, I believe you are open to attacks from these things, and I believe that's obvious if you've ever experienced any type of spiritual warfare. Anyways, don't want to change the subject and get lost in that. I need to stay focused here, because I want to show you in the Bible where there are other names for, like, for instance, if you can see on your screen now, you can see doleful creature is mentioned, and owl is mentioned, satyr, which I told you again is the goat man, and like the goat god Pan, that is supposed to be Hermes' Nephilim child that he had with a nymph or whatever. I guess it would be kind of like a Nephilim child, but a nymph is not really a human being, so that's a little different. But anyways, before I get lost in all that, because you folks know how I like to ramble, let me show you this. Okay, this is the relief of Ishtar or Inanna, okay, quote unquote, the Queen of Heaven that's mentioned in the Bible. This is the one, I believe it's located in the United Kingdom, and they call it the quote unquote Queen of the Night, or they call it the Bernie Relief. Okay, Now, first, right off the rip, notice this Queen of Heaven thingy, this Inanna, this Ishtar thing, has wings like a bird. Okay, for whatever reason, it seems that demonic entities that are linked to birds are often feminine and linked to female demonic entities, which is another funny thing. You got Christians out here that are still telling people, oh, demonic entities don't have a sex. You people, you don't read the Bible. I mean, there are feminine qualities attached to these things. That's what Lilith is. Like, that's what the Hebrews believed Lilith was, right? You know, that's what the Israelites say about their own book. And you've got these, folks, I just don't understand where some of these clowns come from. They come out of the woodwork and they pretend to be Bible believers. They don't believe a word that's in the Bible. Anyways, back to this thing here. She's got wings, right? Look at her feet, okay? She's got bird feet, and whatever these jackals are or whatever that are at her feet, I believe are also mentioned in the Bible. I believe it's possible that they're mentioned in the Bible, and the Bible talks about howlers too. Now, before I forget, let me talk about howlers. Folks, a lot of you people in my group that experience spiritual warfare and whatnot, your eyes have been opened to the truth. You realize that these entities that people call Bigfoot or Sasquatch are probably some type of hybrid entity, and you understand there are spiritual qualities, how they seem to almost come in and out of reality by some accounts, and how they have like a spiritual quality to their attacks. When they screech out or holler out or howl out, people can feel it like in their chest and in the atmosphere. It's not just an audible sound. It seems to have some kind of electrical quality or some kind of reaction in the spirit realm too, folks, okay? More on that later, but remember the howler thing, and I'll get into that later, right? Okay, now look at these other owls here, okay? So now, after me showing you this, would anybody out here say that Inanna, the Queen of Heaven, is not linked to birds? Is she not linked to an owl? Look at her feet, look at her wings, look at the owls around her, okay? I think we can all agree, okay? And a lot of people link Inanna or Ishtar, quote unquote, the Queen of Heaven or the Queen of the Night, to Lilith. A lot of people believe in Hebrew mythology that this thing is Lilith, right? Now, I don't know that. I'm not sure what my opinion is on that, but I do believe that Lilith, and they're similar, and I can show you that in the Bible. And I'm also going to show you in the Bible where they literally talk about the daughters of the owl, which says that these things reproduce. And it says in the Bible that these things have mates. Well, if you have a mate, you're reproducing. So if there's a thing called a daughter of the owl, then there is an owl that is the mother of the daughter. You understand? You understand what I'm saying, folks? I think this is pretty simple, right? A lot of people argue this, and I don't get it, Anyways, let's get going. A lot of this stuff and a lot of mention of these demonic entities, folks, are mentioned in the judgments on Babylon. That's in Isaiah 13, Isaiah 34. I believe that Zephaniah 2, 11 through 15 is talking about the same things. I'll get into that. I haven't had a chance to study Zephaniah, folks. I'm just going to throw it in because there's similar verbiage here, but I don't understand. I can't sit here and tell you exactly what Zephaniah is about. But there's similar language in it, so I'm going to throw it in here. I'm just being honest with you. And there is very plainly worded stuff about this in the book of Revelation in chapter 18. I'm going to get to it, and I'm going to switch back and forth between the KJV, and I'm going to go in here and show you the Hebrew words and why I believe what I believe. And I think it's going to blow your mind, folks. I mean, God literally talks about these animals. He talks about dragons. Now, another thing. When you see dragon in the Bible, folks, that's a very general term. In my opinion, that just means that this being is some type of a serpent or serpentine, I don't believe when the Bible says dragon, though when it talks about like a flying, there are people that believe that when you say dragon, it means a flying serpent. I don't necessarily discount that. I believe it's possible, but I believe there are a lot more things in that serpent race than we give credit for. So dragon in me just means that it's a serpent type of creature. Now, it could be a flying creature. It could be a snake that crawls on the ground. It could be any type of a serpent, right? I believe it's a general statement that it's a serpentine type of being or animal. All right. This is, let me see where I'm at here. This is Isaiah 13, 19 through 22. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, folks, I don't know if you know this or not. I believe most of you do. Sodom and Gomorrah got judged and hit with fire and brimstone, right? The angels went in there. They got Lot and his daughters. They got them out of there. Lot's wife turned around. They were told not to turn around and look. and Lot's wife turned around and looked when they were leaving and the angels were getting them out of there, she turned into a pillar of salt, right? And yeah, I don't know if you remember or not, but I'll just kind of throw it in there. Some pretty crazy stuff happened after that. Lot's daughters ended up getting him drunk and taking advantage of him, and then an incest happened, folks, and they had, I believe it's the Moabites, literally are a product of incest because Lot's daughters got him drunk. And a lot of people theorize, well, that was the only world that they knew, and they probably thought civilization just got bombed, and they probably thought their father was the last living man, and maybe that was their motives, maybe not, I don't know. It's one of those things that you read. The Bible is a heavyweight book, folks. There are heavyweight issues in the Bible that are not easily explained. It is real life, folks. I mean, people did stuff that they shouldn't have done, man. And the Bible does not try to hide that. Even as much as God loved David, the Bible is very clear about David trying to kill, or not trying to kill, but working out to kill, I believe his name was Uriah, this woman's husband that he wanted. He wanted Bathsheba for himself and literally works it out to get this man killed, sends him to the front line, I believe, and takes his wife, folks. Now, and God judges him for it because he takes David and Bathsheba's first kid. The kid dies shortly after birth, right? But the Bible does not hide that, folks. It's a real book. It's a heavyweight book. It will tell you the sins of these people, right? No one in the Bible is perfect but Jesus Christ. Okay. Anyways, back to this. Okay. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So this is about the judgments on Babylon, right? It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pinch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. Okay, I think it's pretty clear. Babylon's going to get judged. Human beings aren't going to live there. And it's obviously, from what's being said here, I think that we can all conclude it's being turned over to demonic entities, okay? But the wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, okay? Folks, I'm telling you that word wild beast and all these creatures we're about to talk to are not technically wild beasts. I believe they are demonic entities that are linked to a specific type of animal, okay? Like Pan, right? What's Pan linked to? A goat, okay? Let's, like Lilith, the screech owl, what's she linked to? She's linked to an owl. And I believe that I can demonstrate that, and that's what I'm going to try to do here, okay? Anyways, let me finish this, and I want to show you this in the Hebrew. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. Now, folks, I already told you what a satyr was. That's a half man, half goat thing, and if you want an example of that, that is Pan in like Greek mythology. I believe he's in the Greek mythology. I don't know what his Roman equivalent is. Anyways, it might be the other way around. I can't remember, but just Google Pan, and I guarantee you'll find everything you need to know. It's a well-studied topic about that thing, right? Okay. And the wild beasts of the island shall cry there. Okay, once again, you've got the thing is how they cry out and howl. And if you follow Bigfoot at all, you've probably heard about the Sierra sounds, where those things get out there and the Sierra Sounds is a recording that a man named Ron Moorhead made at his campgrounds that him and his buddies used to go to, and they are some of the creepy, a lot of people call them samurai sounds, because they get out there, they scream, they holler, they howl, they make the strangest sounds you ever heard, folks. It is so creepy, it'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and people call it samurai sounds because it almost sounds like chatter, like some type of language, like they have their own language, and it is similar to like what people say, I don't know if they're comparing it to samurai battle cries or what that reference is about, but they call it quote unquote samurai sounds. Check that out, folks. It's pretty creepy. David Paulides even mentions that in one of his movies. I can't remember which one, but he literally goes out there and talks to Ron Moorhead and he plays the sound samples of that in one of his Hunted series. I believe it's on Hulu. Very, very creepy stuff, folks. Anyways, I want to key in on that because it's a very important part of how I think that these animals are accounted for in the Bible and how we experience that to this day of these howling spirits, these impure spirits that are out in our forests and out in the woods and in the national parks that howl out and make these crazy noises, folks. A lot, now not all of it, but I believe a lot of these crazy noises we hear out here that are unexplained, I submit to you, they are demonic entities crying out, and the Bible talks about how they cry out. That's the point I want to make here. And the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces, and her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. All right, let's look at that in the Hebrew. Okay. Started at Isaiah 19. You can see we're at Isaiah 13:20 and coming down here. Okay, and the wild beast. Well, what's a wild beast? Okay, that's to see. Okay, a desert dweller, nomad, wild beast. Okay. Not nothing too provocative there, but here I want to take you to the Brown Driver Briggs and show you this is linked to a crier, a yelper, a specific wild beast, but not certainly identified. You're going to notice when they try to tell you what these things are, folks, it's almost like the Christians that were involved in this are backing off and stopping short of telling you they're a demonic entity, but they will also tell you that they don't know for certain what these things are, but I can tell you who knows. Do you want to know who knows? The Israelites that wrote the book know exactly what they are, folks, and they're not telling you, okay? Folks, you're going to realize if you study Hebrew culture and you study Israelite culture, folks, they don't tell their enemies what they're doing and what they know because they have had so many wars and so many enemies. They have learned the best thing you can do is keep your mouth shut. Everything you give your enemy and every bit of information that you give people that want to destroy you, guess what they're going to do, folks? They're going to use that information to destroy you. So they are they keep their secrets, folks. They're not going to come out and tell you what their book means. We are outsiders. We are Gentiles. We are dogs to them, folks. You have to understand that's what the Bible teaches. That's why Jesus said to the woman that I can't remember where she was from, but she was not an Israelite. And she asked Jesus Christ to heal her daughter. And he says it's not fit to give the children's food to dogs, right? I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he literally compares her to a dog. Now, folks, you can throw a piece of political correctness right out the window because that's a bunch of garbage. That is political correctness is a man-made religion, okay? God's chosen people, the Israelites, were elevated above the idol worshippers, the pagans around them, folks. There's no doubt about it, okay? Even Jesus shows you that, but she appeals to the Lord and says, but even the dogs get the scraps that fall off the table, and he heals her because of her faith. But you have to understand, Jesus was there for the Israelites first. He was offering them the kingdom, folks. That is why it says that John could have been Elijah, because Elijah is supposed to come back before the Messiah returns and pave the way. And God put that in place that where John could work. If the Israelites would have accepted Jesus Christ as their king, folks, John could have stood in place with Elijah's anointing, and the millennial reign would have started right then. But they didn't accept him. God knew they were not going to accept him. But just in my opinion, just so no man can say that offer to accept the kingdom was an idol offer and it was not real, God put it in place. So you can't question God, because literally it was put in place. Even though God knew they weren't going to accept Jesus Christ, he put it in place, and the deal was real, because if they would have, Elijah's anointing rested on John, and John would have stepped in place of Elijah and made the way, right? Okay, that was not an idol offer. They rejected it, but it was not an idol offer. Anyways, all right. Wild beast, desert dweller, crier, yelper. They cry out at night. They make crazy noises. Okay, that's the wild beast here. Okay, let's move on to the doleful creatures, right? A howling animal. Now they link it to a jackal or hyena. Now remember the Bernie relief here that I showed you. The thing is on some type of, I guess you could say that that's probably a jackal-looking animal. Now I don't know if that's in reference to, but I'm just going to show you the things that kind of stick out to me, right? Okay. But I believe that howling animal is a general term, and like I've told you before, folks, I believe it is linked to Sasquatch and other animals, right? But anyways, there that is. Let's move on here. Okay, even the Strongs, okay, a howler, a lonesome wild animal, doleful creature. Now, how many Christians, folks, since we've had the KJV, have literally read over that doleful creature? Oh, wow, wonder what that is, and just breeze right along, having no knowledge on the subject, not understanding that these Hebrew words are very specific, and they are probably about demonic entities, okay? We just breeze right over it. Sometimes you got to go back to the Hebrew, right? Okay, here. And it says doleful creatures and owls. Okay, there's more information here, folks. First, the Hebrew word bath, that means daughter or house, okay? A daughter, okay? So what is this telling us, okay? If this is a daughter of the owl, folks. This is a daughter of a Ya'ana, okay? An owl, ostrich, translated daughters of the owl, okay? Now let's put two and two together, folks. If you're a daughter of the owl, then there is a mother or father owl, probably parents too, that were your parents, and you are a child of an owl, so they reproduce, okay? And what are we told in Genesis 3:14 and 15? That there's a demon seed, because God says, I will put enmity between thy seed and her seed, when he was talking to the Nakash, the serpent being that tricked Adam and Eve, okay? He judged them and literally said, I'm going to put enmity, animosity between your two seeds. There is a demon seed. Okay, folks, it is in the Bible. That is what the Bible says. You need to understand that. Are you going to be completely confused about a lot of this stuff in here? Okay? Now, this is, folks, I've told you all 1,000 times, the KJV, the King James Version, is absolutely the best translation. I love it. But there are parts here where I wish they were more descriptive. Like in Genesis 6 when it says giants, I wish they were more descriptive and said they're Nephilim and some of them are giants, because not all of them were giants, folks. You have Haman the Agagite, okay? That he is a descendant of the Amalekite king, Agag, folks. He is a Nephilim being, but he's a normal man who tries to get the king to judge this Israelite woman. I can't remember her name right now. It escapes me. But literally, and this is after Samuel hacked that king up. Samuel hacked him to pieces because Saul didn't do what God told him to do. God told Saul to go in there and kill every one of them and to even kill their animals. And a lot of people think it's probably because they were sleeping with their animals too, folks. They were having sex with their animals. And we know in Leviticus that if a man or woman has sex with an animal, you kill the human being and the animal because it's detestable, right? Okay? And a lot of people think that that's the kind of stuff these people were into, folks. It gets pretty crazy, right? Anyways, they were Nephilim, folks. They were descended from angelic hybrids. Half angel, half human. They were Nephilim. And part of that, a side effect of that, was giantism. You were a giant, folks, and I believe they also had other spiritual abilities, like the Raphaites. The original, that Greek word, or not Greek word, but that Hebrew word Rapha means to heal, folks. A lot of people say that's why David cut Goliath's head off, because these things had serpentine qualities like a snake. You cut its tail off, it'll grow it back. They could regenerate, folks. A lot of people think that's why he cut his head off, because these things could, for all we know, they could regrow limbs. We don't know that for sure, but it stands to reason they were harder to kill than a normal human being, folks. They didn't play around. They cut your head off, right? And I do know there are other things. Well, that's also proof of death, and it's easier to carry around the head than it is a body. Okay, well, still, but let's not discount the fact that these supernatural beings were harder to kill than men, right? Okay, moving on. And owls, we just established that's daughters of the owl, okay? So, it shall dwell there, and satyrs, here it is, folks, okay? Hairy, he-goat, buck, sacrificial animal, satyr. This is the thing, folks, that the Israelites were sacrificing to. It's in Leviticus, I believe, maybe 19 or 20, but they were sacrificing to this being out in the field, and they came out of Egypt and did that. So I believe they learned it from Egypt, and I believe based on that, you could make a case of how that is most likely linked to the goat of Mendes from Egypt, folks. The Baphomet, all of that stuff is linked to this being, and it is linked to Pan, the demigod, okay? That word satyr, I had to throw that in there and stress it, because most biblical scholars will agree that satyr is linked to Pan, and they won't try to argue that, but they want to argue about the meanings of these other beings here. And my point to you is if it's mentioned in the same sentence with a satyr, we're talking about demonic entities, folks. A doleful creature is a demonic entity. A daughter of an owl is a demonic entity. We have to get this through our heads, folks. I think I just said demonic. Good grief. Demonic is what I meant. Anyways. And the wild beasts of the islands. Okay, let's take a look at this Hebrew. Once again, howling beast, jackal. Similar, once again, I want to take you back to that jackal-looking thing that the Bernie Relief woman's got her feet on. Obviously, this is showing us that this woman is in authority over these beings. She's literally standing on them, folks. I mean, if you wanted to put together some type of picture and communicate that without writing, if she's standing on them, she's probably their queen. A la Queen of Heaven, Queen of the Night. She is in authority over these demonic entities in some form. All right. Howling beast. Let's look at the Strongs. A howler, okay? And the wild beasts of the islands, the howlers shall cry there in their desolate houses, cry out. Once again, I'm going to go back. I just really want to drive it home. That's what a lot of people hear that have these Sasquatch experiences, folks. You're seeing a lot of crazy stuff like the Sierra Sounds Ron Moorhead recorded, and other people recording these crazy howls. And when they get closer to them and these things howl out, it reverberates in their chest. They can feel it on another level. Now, if that was all audible, folks, and it hit you so hard that it shook your chest, it would blow your eardrums. So obviously, when you're vibrating on the inside, you're being hit with some type of other sonic energy that's not just high decibels enough to blow your eardrums out, man. You know what I mean? Something else is going on here, And it's just like they call it exploding head syndrome, and that I hate that name, because when you say exploding head syndrome, you sound like a moron. You sound like you don't know what you're talking about. You sound like someone who just don't understand reality. But what that means is, in medical jargon, folks, is you get what feels like a surge of electricity in your head while you're asleep. It wakes you up, and you feel like your head's going to explode. And that is a sonic and/or / electrical demonic attack. Folks, I experienced this. I literally woke up half in, half out and seen a dirty looking cloud that was about 18 inches in diameter. It was like a dirty gray, greenish kind of look, and it was kind of hovering above my bed in the corner. And I was like half asleep and looked at it. And at that point in my life, I had seen stuff like that, and I just wanted to be left alone. I was exhausted. I could not sleep. I was literally at the end of my rope, and I just tried to go back to bed. I knew they were real. I knew that they were around, and I just wanted to be left alone. I literally just rolled over and tried to go back to sleep. And it's like this thing felt slighted, and it literally sent 3 electrical surges that shot through the top of my head, and it felt like my brain was going to explode. Like I cried out about it, like it shocked me, folks. It was crazy, and I was awake, right? So now, I realize that story's hard to believe, folks. I realize that if you don't have any experience with these entities, how could you ever believe that? I understand what I'm telling you is so extremely hard to believe that if you don't have experience, why would you believe it? Anyways, back to what I'm doing here. All right. Now let's drill down. The wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and now we've got dragons, okay? The Hebrew term for that is tanin or tanim, okay? And I believe in, what is it? Is it something in Asian culture, that dragon, we all know the dragon's linked to Asian culture, right? I don't think anybody would argue that, but even that term, tananim, I think somehow tanim or something even works into their language to, when you translate it, it's basically the same thing. I can't remember where I seen that or where I read that, so I'm not going to dive into that now because I really just don't remember enough about it. But I do believe that is linked to Asian culture. That word tanim is. Okay, and it means the same thing, dragon. Anyways, moving on. Okay. A marine or land monster, a sea serpent, or jackal. Now you've got jackal that's thrown in with this, which also shows you the confusion of contemporary English-speaking people trying to understand the Hebrew culture and the Hebrew meaning of these words when the Israelites aren't telling you, folks. If you want to know what these words actually mean in Jewish culture, you're going to have to get a Jew to talk to you, right? Okay, dragon, sea monster, serpent. They even link it to a whale. Why? I don't know. It's just I don't know what you do with that. But I think most scholars will agree a tanim or a tanin is a serpent type of beings. I believe tanim, anything that typically in Hebrew ends with an im or an im, is typically plural. So I'm not a Hebrew scholar here, but tanin is probably singular and tanim is probably plural, which would actually be 3 or more because there's dual in Hebrew too. So in English, you've got singular or plural. You've got one or you've got multiple. In Hebrew, it's my understanding, folks, that you have a singular you have a dual and a plural. So they've got one that specifically counts out like a couple or two. But anyways, I digress here. Let me get back into what we're doing here. Dragon, serpent, sea monster, dragon, or dinosaur. A lot of, folks, a lot of these mythologies about these warriors in like the United Kingdom or whatever slaying these dragons that you see now, they fly in the sky and everybody laughs and oh well, it's been presented to us as being like laughable garbage. That never really happened. Actually, the word dragon just means serpent, folks, and or dinosaur. And when you are hearing about these United Kingdom knights and how they slew dragons, folks, they were killing serpent beings. It didn't necessarily mean it was a dragon flying in the sky with wings, folks. They were killing a dinosaur type being that has literally gone extinct. Okay, they probably killed them all. But now I can't prove that, but you can't disprove it either, because there is so much written about this stuff. To sit there and think that was all garbage and there was not some type of serpentine being that these knights were killing, that were attacking people and eating them, folks, I think you're making a huge mistake. There is so much lore about that, it has to be rooted in some type of fact, right? And that's basically why some people link the dragon term to dinosaur, because once again, they were serpentine, right? All right, serpent, venomous snake, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's move on. All right. Let's go to Isaiah 34:11. Okay, now here's two other terms I want you to pay attention to, folks, and that is the cormorant and the bittern, right? Now, you'll see the New International Version is going to translate it desert owl or screech owl. Now, we know that screech owl is Lilith, right? And they'll tell you here the precise identification for these birds is uncertain. Okay, first off, it's not a bird. The people who translated the NIV know that screech owl meant Lilith and it's a demonic entity, but that's the garbage they're going to give you. They're going to try to make you believe that's actually a physical bird and there's nothing spiritual about it. Folks, that's nonsense, right? Why they link cormorant and bittern to the desert owl or the screech owl, which, once again, I'm going to remind you, it's probably linked to Inanna, the Queen of Heaven. That relief I just showed you, this little gal right here, yeah, okay. And her daughter of the owl, which I showed you. Anyways, look for cormorant and bittern. They are also linked to these beings. But the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it, and the owl also and the raven shall dwell there. So now you've got four different types of demonic, probably feminine entities. A cormorant, a bittern, an owl, and a raven. Okay? And he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. That's going to take some study, folks. I don't know what that means. That's not what we're here for today. I'm going to move on. They shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there, and all her princes shall be nothing. And the thorns shall come up in her places, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof, and it shall be a habitation of dragons, okay, Tanin or Tanim, and a court of owls. Okay, folks, once again, we're talking about demonic entities here, in my opinion. Now we've got the wild beasts of the desert mentioned again. For whatever reason, this type of entity is linked to the desert. Shall meet the wild beasts of the island. So for whatever reason, I don't know what this actually means in Hebrew, folks, and I don't think many people do, but we are being shown here that and we know demonic entities and fallen angels are tied to certain areas, folks. They are territorial, because when the angel went and talked to Daniel, the angel told Daniel, when I leave here, I will fight like the king of Persia or the king of Greece. Okay? They're named over those areas because they're assigned over those territories, folks. I'm referencing when the angel came to Daniel and gave him a prophecy, told him what was going to happen, and told him after he fasted 21 days, God heard him, this, that, and the other, right? And he also talks about how him and Michael were met with resistance by the fallen angels and by the divine council that are assigned over there, and that's in Psalm 82, folks. Go back and read it. God assigns certain angelic beings to certain types of people in certain areas, and this angel and Michael had to fight and argue with these other rulers to get to Daniel, to give Daniel this prophecy. That is written as plain as it could be if you go read about that, folks. And those beings that resisted them are referenced in Psalm 82 when God says that he will judge them and they will die like men and fall like one of the princes, talking about Satan or Lucifer. It's all there, folks. You just got to read the Bible and believe it. If you just read the Bible and you think most of it is not true, it is just colorful speak, and it's not actually true, you're not going to understand the deeper meaning of what's going on here, folks. You have to have a literal interpretation. Okay, that's my opinion. If you disagree, that's fine, but that's just how I see it. Okay, wild beasts of the desert shall also meet the wild beasts of the island. We're talking about demonic entities that are assigned to a certain territory, folks. They're going to end up in Babylon. Babylon's going to be a place for these things, okay? Now, that's another thing I want to make out. Now, notice how these accounts of Bigfoot and these other beings, they don't try to dominate their space, folks. Now, there are some instances where these Sasquatch will get territorial and run humans off, but for the most part, folks, do you see them out trying to walk around in public? They are technically, for all intents and purposes, these beings are in hiding, okay? They don't want you to know they're here. They don't want mankind to bother with them. And I believe it's because they were judged so harshly when God took Moses and Joshua and the Israelites through there and kicked the Nephilim's butts all over the Holy Land, folks. They said, hey, we can't fight with it. God is for these people. We cannot fight human beings, man. God is behind them. God is kicking our butts all over the desert. We got to get out of here. Now, that's just a colorful, playful way to illustrate why I believe they're in hiding. They will not challenge the blessing on mankind through God. Now, that will change after the rapture. And yeah, I'm a rapture believer. A lot of you people don't believe it. Okay, that's all fine and good. That's a problem for another video. All right, let me move on here. Wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyrs shall cry. Once again, you've got them howling out, hollering out. Sierra sounds, Ron Moorhead. That should click in all of our minds every time we hear that. Satyr shall cry out to his fellow. Okay, so there's more. There's not just one. And the screech owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place of rest. So feminine demonic entity. So once again, the people that say demonic entities don't have a sex, what are you talking about, folks? What in God's name are you talking about? What do you mean they don't have a sex? They are obviously linked to feminine and masculine, personalities and forms, right? There shall the great owl make her nest. Folks, this could literally be a reference to Inanna. This woman right here, once again, there she is. The great owl. This one is great. This one is probably in authority over the other ones, and that could be a reference to Inanna, the queen of heaven, right there. There shall the great owl make her nest and lay and hatch. Oh, hatch. You mean she's having more. You mean that might be a reference to the demonic seed talked about in Genesis 3, 14, and 15. Okay? This thing is reproducing, folks. Okay? There shall the great owl make her nest and lay and hatch and gather under her shadow, and there shall vultures also be gathered, and every one with her mate. So vultures, here's another type of demonic entity in my opinion, and they have mates, folks, okay? This may be why they take genetic material from human beings, folks. People that have and I'm just speculating here, but they may not be able to reproduce on their own. They may have to take biological matter from us, semen from men, and you literally use a human woman's reproductive system to make these things, folks, for all we know. That may be why so many UFO accounts and UFO abductions are centered around sex, and creating, they're obviously fascinated with our reproductive system, folks, and it might be that they need that to increase their numbers, and a lot of people speculate they're looking to increase their numbers for the final big blowout. For whatever reason, folks, they think they can resist God. They think they can resist Jesus Christ when he comes back. And I'm going to tell you another thing, a little off subject here. A lot of people that understand that Trump is linked to Rothschild think that Space Force is a division that they think they can use some kind of technology or something to hold back the return of Jesus Christ. They are going to tell the world that Jesus Christ is the bad guy, folks. Okay? Of course, they think they're the good guy. They think Lucifer's the good guy. He's going to bring mankind into a golden age of man. So if you think Lucifer is the good guy, the one that's going to save you, your savior, then you believe then, just by virtue of saying that Jesus Christ is your enemy. They know Jesus is coming back. These fools think they can resist him. It's almost like, you remember, folks, when they're talking about the Tower of Babel in the Bible, and God comes down and says that God comes down and breaks it up, because he says, if I don't come down here, I'm paraphrasing, but God says, if I don't come down here and break this up, they'll be able to do whatever they want to do. Nothing will be unattainable for them. Folks, most of us, and those of us who love God, we just want to do what God wants us to do because we want a relationship with Him. We are extremely happy being His children. These people don't. They hear verses like that, and it reminds me of like Lloyd Christmas in the Dumb and Dumber movies. So you're saying there's a chance? They are invigorated and energized by the fact that even our Bible says, and even our Bible has God coming down and saying that if He don't break it up, that nothing will be, that they'll be able to accomplish anything they want. They revel in that, folks. They think that these Luciferians think that it's written in our own Bible. They've got a chance. They're like Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber, folks. Remember, he's following that chick around because he's in love with her, and she's basically trying to let him down easy and tell him that she's not interested in him romantically, and he's like, so you're saying there's a chance? That's, in my eyes, that's what I see. That's how pathetic I think they are. But anyways, moving on. All right. We need to look at Isaiah 34:11 through 15 with the Hebrew. Okay. 34, let's toggle down here. Okay, the cormorant. Okay, once again, unclean bird. We all know demonic entities are unclean. Jesus called them unclean spirits. Okay, perhaps a pelican. Once again, they don't know. Okay, perhaps an extinct bird. Exact meaning unknown. They stop short of telling you that it's linked to a demonic entity. For whatever reason, folks, that has been withheld up until this point, but I can guarantee you Hebrew scholars know those are demonic entities. Jesus Christ called them unclean spirits. This is an unclean bird. All right. Once again, they're trying to tell you it's a pelican, cormorant. Okay, folks, if that's your opinion, you think that's a bird, that's fine. That is obviously not my opinion, and literally, I believe that you are so behind the times if you believe that you have no idea of the reality of the world we live in. Anyways, moving on. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I sharply disagree with that thought. I respect other people's views, but I think that thought has got human beings, and especially Christians, stuck in ignorance to where we don't even understand spiritual things because we don't think anything spiritual. We think everything, and we think of everything in the physical, and we make no account for demonic entities that exist in this reality. All right. All right, a bittern. A species of bird, perhaps the bittern. Once again, perhaps. They don't know, folks. They're just trying to say that it's physical, but it's not. You've got the brown driver Briggs that links it to a porcupine and a hedgehog. They got no idea what these things are, folks, okay? Now, the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it. Once again, they're mentioned. The owl, okay? Great owl, okay? Eared owl. And once again, an unclean animal, right? Now, I know that these beings are unclean and that the Israelites would not eat these animals and this by the law. I understand all that, but I also think that it's a reference to demonic entities, folks. All right. Unclean bird, probably a heron. They can't even agree on what they are. Probably blowing cry. Once again, you've got a reference to them crying out, okay? And great owl, blah, blah, blah. I think I pretty much landed that plane, folks, and you understand what I'm trying to get at. Once again, okay, we've got the raven mentioned again by Isaiah. We don't know what this thing is, but once again, it's my hunch it's a demonic entity. Shall dwell in it, and shall stretch out upon the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. They shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there, and all her princes shall be nothing. Thorns shall come up. We're talking about the judgment on Babylon again, I believe, folks. And shall come up in their places, nettles and brambles and fortresses thereof, and it shall be a habitation of dragons. Once again, you got the tanim, tan, linked to the dragon, folks. Maybe the extinct dinosaur, blah, blah, blah. They link it to a whale, folks. Now, I believe that demonic entities and spiritual entities do have representation on earth. I believe that's why it says the Nakash, the shiny serpent, he was cursed to crawl on his belly. I'm not exactly sure that spiritual entity, I believe that was a judgment on the form, and that's why the snakes we see nowadays crawl on their belly, folks. I believe they have representation here. I don't completely understand that. That's why I'm hesitant to talk on it. But I believe that these, even demonic entities, part of these fallen demonic entities, they have representation here on earth, folks. And once again, I don't completely understand that. But why is Lilith linked to an owl? Why are these dragons, these serpentine beings, linked to the Nakash in the garden that tricked Adam and Eve? I think it's obvious they have physical representation here in creation. I don't understand it, but it's just a hunch, all right? Once again, you've got the talk of the court of the owl, okay? A bold settlement haunt, court. I don't know if that is a reference to some type of power structure, folks, I just don't know. I wish I did. It's, you know, I could, and once again, you've got Bath, which again I've told you means daughter or house. You've got daughters of the owl mentioned again by Isaiah in 34, just like what was we were just at Isaiah 13, right? The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet the wild beasts of the island. We covered this before. The satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl may rest there, find her place. You've got the great owl mentioned, shadow, vultures. Somehow I think we may have already been over this. Anyways, Isaiah 13 matches closely Isaiah 34. This is mentioned in Zephaniah. I believe this is also a judgment. I wanted to read you guys this. The Lord will be terrible unto them. Okay. Now this belief a lot of people have, that God is some kind of cosmic bellhop that just wants to give you everything, and and you're so great and you're so important to him, he just wants to stick around and kiss your butt and give you everything you want. Folks, that's nonsense. Okay. You know, God does love you. He loves human beings. He sent his own son to die for us. We know he loves us, but make no mistake, folks, God does judge sin. He will not accept sin. We have to understand how against sin God is. And when you sin, you will get judged, folks. There is a standard for it, okay? The Lord will be terrible unto them, for he will famish all the gods of the earth, okay? That is God's little g, folks. Those are the fallen angels. Those are the beings that he scolds in Psalm 82 when he says that they will die like men and fall like one of the princes. Probably meaning die like men. That means they will be thrown in the lake of fire and die like a man, and they're going to fall like one of the princes, a reference to Lucifer. And men shall worship him, everyone from his place, even all the isles of the heathen. I believe that is a reference to the millennial reign. Okay, let's go down here again. Once again, it's just time to move on. I think I've made my point. But once again, you've got these birds spoken about again and what they're going to do, and, you know, a place for beasts to lie down. It seems to be a place that God's going to make for a short time for demonic entities to be, right? And once again, you've got the NIV translating cormorant and bittern to desert owl and screech owl, and we know that the screech owl by the Hebrew is Lilith. So why they do that when those words aren't the same, I don't know. All right, now let's close this up here. Revelation 18:2. And once again, this is the judgment on Babylon, folks, okay? And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, as become a habitation of devils. Right there, folks. That is the key that makes all the verses that I just brought up to you out of the Old Testament, that hits it home and shows you these things are not animals. They are devils. They are diamonds, whatever you want to call them. I will show you that in a moment. And a hold for every foul spirit, unclean spirit. What did Jesus command out of people that were possessed? Unclean spirits. That's what Jesus Christ called them. And a cage for every unclean and hateful bird. Now, if you think we're talking about a habitation of devils and a hold for every foul spirit, and you think all of a sudden then he shifts gears and these hateful birds are just like crows sitting on a line, you know, caw, caw, caw. Folks, you're crazy. That is not what we're talking about here. Hateful bird is a reference to hateful, unclean spirits, probably feminine. Okay? All right. Revelation 18:2. Here it is, folks. That word devils, dehamon, okay, a demon, a supernatural spirit of bad nature, devil, okay. Now, do any of you have any doubt after what I just read to you and showed you, and what I showed you in Revelation, that these demonic entities are linked to Babylon? They are linked to the fall of Babylon, and they are not birds. They are demonic entities. I don't know how, after what I showed you, you could still hold that view, okay? Now, foul spirit, let's go ahead while we're here, okay? Impure, okay? Demonic, we figured as much, okay? And spirit, that's pneuma, folks, you know, that's a reference to just a spirit being. That doesn't have a negative connotation to it, but the word before it, foul, shows you it's an unclean spirit. And a cage, okay, basically means cage, probably, you know, prison, you know, obviously they're going to be locked up here for whatever. I don't fully understand the purpose of why they are locked up there in the judgment on Babylon that's mentioned, folks, but it's going to require some more study on my part. If I feel like God gives me any revelation on that, or, you know, I'll bring it back to you, folks. You know me, I can't resist but to get on here and run my mouth. So, okay. Now, hateful bird, to detest. loveless, hateful. So they're full of nothing but hateful energy. And what do people say often when they have these demonic encounters, folks? They say they can feel the evil, the hatred permeating off of these demonic entities, right? Whether it be a UFO abduction or it be you run into like the Goat Man or Bigfoot or something like that. It's the same thing over and over again. You can literally feel that negative, hateful energy in the air, okay? Once again, they're trying to say this presumed, okay? They presume, they say this is a bird. Once again, folks, I'm telling you, this is not a bird. For whatever reason, I believe that the masculine is often, not every time, but the masculine demonic entity is often linked to a serpent, folks. Now, I'm not saying there aren't feminine serpents, because we do know that there are, but oftentimes in this, the masculine is linked to the serpent, and the feminine is linked to a bird type of being like an owl. Why that is, I don't know, folks. But anyways, I just wanted to put this together and show you that from a biblical standpoint, that there is room in the biblical in biblical theology. From a biblical standpoint, there is biblical support that cryptids exist, and they are still here, and they are involved and associated with Babylon, folks. They're associated with the Queen of Heaven that people have worshipped all the way back through antiquity. Even some of the Israelites worshipped her, folks. They made cakes to her, you know. It says that in the Bible, they made cakes to the Queen of Heaven, and they cried for Tammuz. You know, are you kidding me, folks? You know, but why they would do it, I don't know. But anyways, this video probably already ran over a little too long, folks, so I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. But I just really felt led by the Holy Spirit to get on here and explain myself a little better and why I believe what I believe. And I hope I wasn't too pushy about it, folks. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I don't want to argue with anybody. I'm just trying to show y'all what I found. This is for your review. Pray about it. Let the Holy Spirit lead you. Come to whatever conclusion you believe is right through prayer and following the Holy Spirit, folks. And until next time, God bless you all in Jesus' name.